In this video, I'm going to walk you through the beginnings of a self-management implementation in a small tech company. If you're curious about flatter structures, decentralized leadership, or self-managing organizations, then I hope that by sharing this video and this case study, you will start to see what it can look like in practice. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Lizzie, and I've spent the past 8 years working with founders and their teams to support them in adopting more progressive ways of working. As this is still an ongoing and live project, I do have consent from my client to share with you the approach we've taken and the journey that we're on so far, but I won't be sharing who they are for confidentiality purposes. Of course, this isn't a final success story, but I think it's really important to share with you the approach that we've taken and how self-management and the journey that you go on can look so different no matter the type of company or the team that you have. There's truly no one size fits all. So hence why I want to start sharing some of the case studies and projects that I'm working on so that you can see just how different some of these approaches can be. For context, this is a small tech company based in the US, but they have remote teams all over the world. So with that framing, let me take you on the journey. Now, I know a question that often makes people really intrigued about self-management is how did this all come about? How did it kind of get started? And it's one thing I hear, especially when I'm doing speaking events or keynotes, and people are kind of curious to, but what was the kind of like the activation point where someone thought, okay, I want to ditch the traditional management hierarchy and I want to do something different. And every founder who has decided to go on this journey all has their own unique stories about how they've discovered this way of working. But for this particular founder, they knew that they wanted to do something different. They were really passionate about company culture in and of itself, and were big fans of the Zappos company culture and the legacy that Tony Hsieh had left. And he'd been following some of their kind of more unusual practices, from adopting holacracy and then completely shifting to create their own unique way of self-management. And he thought maybe this is what we need to give it a go. So hence he then found me and we started working together. Now, what I want to say about my approach is that it's very holistic and bespoke to every single client I work with. So even this journey that I'm sharing with you right now will be completely different to another journey with another client that I'm working with. So there's no one size fits all. And that's because I believe that both companies, teams, they are not all the same. There may be some similarities, but I like to really understand what it is this company needs and what it is the team needs, and to make sure that we're actually approaching those needs rather than just doing kind of a blueprint framework. So I've spent a lot of my time and resources specialising in these ways of working, learning the methodologies and the philosophies that can support companies in navigating their own journey. So what I do want to absolutely say at the start of this video is that this is not something you can copy. It's a very honest approach of how we've approached it, but it is totally different depending on which client I'm working with. The first step we took was doing a culture audit and some focus groups with the teams. And the reason we do this is because, first of all, as a coach, I want to understand exactly what the culture and the climate is like right now. Do we have what we call kind of fertile ground, where if we're to start self-management, it's actually going to take root? So what I'm looking for there is things like a high level of trust that already exists within the company, within the teams. Now, what we also want to make sure with this way of working is that we're not just doing it because it's a trend or it's a fad or it sounds really cool. We want to make sure that whatever practices we choose, whatever we design, is going to resolve some of the challenges that exist within the organization. So hence why we began with a culture audit and some focus groups. And then we shared all of that data with the team and said, this is what we've found. And we did a session where they were looking at, yes, absolutely, what does the picture look like right now in the company? And what would we really like it to be? So we had those two kind of landscapes of the existing now and where we want it to be. So a real understanding of that journey, not just with the founder, but with the teams. An addition that I always do, no matter the journey and no matter the steps we're taking, is founder coaching. I cannot tell you enough how vital founder coaching is, because in this new system, they have to really start to learn to step in and step back and not be that kind of overly controlling, over dominating role that is not allowing the team to step into their new power and their new ownership. So throughout all of this journey, we have been doing founder coaching, and anyone that goes on a self-management journey, I would absolutely highly recommend that this is so vitally important, because we have to work on the mindset as well as the practices. So it's like we're developing the external systems, but we also need to work on our internal system, which is mindset and behavior. And those two pieces are paramount for what I believe is successful and effective implementation of self-management. The next step we took with the team was values co-creation. And this is such a connecting piece, but also again interlinks with why we are choosing self-management or new ways of working and how it links to our values. So if we truly believe in transparency and diversity and inclusion, then of course we're going to want to build a system and a culture that actually practices and systematizes those things as well. So the values co-creation piece was a really important point again to anchor in why we're doing this, and does the practices that we're going to choose and we're going to actually activate match and support the values that we believe in and we want to act on. And this, I feel, is another kind of missing link. So often, organizations think about values and behaviors and will create these with teams, the kind of co-creative approach, which is absolutely the way to go, but then they don't think about the bigger picture of how the organization operates. So, really thinking, do we actually practice and design our organization and processes based on some of these values? And that's, again, a really important link. If you're curious about even just starting with your values, then I have done a full walkthrough of my actual values creation workshop. So I'll make sure that that is linked below as well. Just to do a pit stop of where we are at so far in this journey. So we've got the culture audit and focus groups, we've got founder coaching going on, and we've just done some values co-creation. So they are the three things that we have activated. Now, in terms of the design process and the approach that we're going to take, is very emergent and adaptive, because again, like I said, there is no point me saying to this founder and his teams, oh, we're going to take this step, then this step, then this step, and we're going to do these things. We have to learn what the team needs and adapt some of the sessions as we go. So this can feel really discombobulating for some people, because they're so used to consultants coming in with like a framework and a blueprint, and we're going to follow all these steps and get the same results as if it's a recipe to follow, which it absolutely isn't, because as we know, once we do one thing, something else might unravel or change, or we might notice something else. So we actually have to be really aware of what's going on. So we have those pieces, and like I say, nothing else was designed. We had lots of tools and things we could do, but we wanted to know at which stage should we activate some of these things. So the next thing we were thinking about was, okay, we want some practical sessions on the practices the team can do, but also some personal growth sessions. So there was these 2 workshops that we were going to kind of focus on, where we were going to teach and train the team specific practices, and then also support them in their personal growth aspect. Across 9 months, we facilitated 8 training workshops, and these were based both on self-management practices, but also the personal growth and self-discovery piece. As we began training the teams, we also worked with a group of stakeholders, including the founder, to start to shape what their circle structure might look like. So really thinking about what are the pieces of work that this company needs to execute, that they want to put out into the world, and how might that look and be designed in a circle structure. So while all of these workshops and trainings are going on, we're also looking at the circle structure and the design of the organization. And for this, we put together a small group including the founder and some other selected members of the team, to kind of be a working group to think about, okay, what is the work we want to put out and how might we design this in a circle structure? So this was very much like a draft circle structure before we would then show it to the team to get them to challenge and ask us questions. One session that was particularly helpful for everyone in the team was to really look at their roles and responsibilities. Now, I've talked before on this channel about the difference between job titles and job roles. So again, I'll make sure to link that video below. But essentially, it's really understanding what are the hats that I'm wearing and where do I happen to work? Like, what's the bits of work that I'm actually doing? And this clarity opened up also the huge gaps that were existing within the company, where people had maybe been overworking or they'd been kind of picking up things that weren't really in their kind of zone of genius. So this identified some brilliant recruitment opportunities for when they wanted to kind of grow and think about those priorities. Like I said at the start, this is still a live and ongoing project. It is by no means complete because this is a process, this is a journey. We keep iterating and adapting things. But one thing that has been really powerful as they've been going on this journey and really showing up for what they want to change has been the company offsite. And I think sometimes we undermine the power of a company offsite, especially when you are a remote or hybrid team and you'll spend so much time online or digitally, and then you come together and you have that connection and that fun. And so one of the things that we did was actually after a certain period of time, so after 9 months, we decided let's do a company offsite where we get everyone together in person, we kind of celebrate where we've got to so far, remember where we're going and think about what the next steps might be. So it was a great way just to almost like take a pause on everything that we've been doing and then kind of like recommit to the journey, talk about some of the challenges that are coming through and have that really open, spacious time together where we could kind of roadmap some of these things. So that is where this small US tech company is at with their self-management implementation. It is such a joy and honor to work with them. And I was a little bit nervous and uneasy about sharing this journey because I think so often we're looking for a case study where everything is perfect, everything's implemented, and we can kind of go away and copy and paste everything. But that's just not how it works. And that's what I want to kind of get across, that this is a process and a journey that you have to keep showing up for. And it does take time. That doesn't mean you have to engage with a coach like me for that period of time, but having someone to guide you on the journey and support you can be hugely beneficial. So this isn't kind of a copy and paste case study. This is practical, this is honest, this is real. And I hope that in some way it's inspired you to even take one or two things and think about how that might give you your first step on the journey to self-management. But thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next week.